Hello everybody, welcome back to Gelvin Valley Farming Simulator 15. Map made by Wild Wild Wes and modified periodically by some of us. I tried something here that I've wanted to do with the stream textures, and actually, you know what, let me just go flying. We'll just take a trip up here. You may recall that the textures, oops, I'm going to crash into that tree. The textures here used to be kind of similar to what you see in this other stream that's coming in, how it's kind of wispy and you can easily see through it. I know we've talked about it before in here. Really, this was the texture that the Giants had in the base game, kind of on just a decorative piece, if you will, a bathtub or that kind of thing. And Wild Wild Wes had applied this texture to the entire stream, which we see kind of coming down through here. What I did is I put a different texture on it, and I colored it a little, and I'm not sure I like it or not. I think it's headed in the right direction, but the trouble is I see far too many seams, and the seams I think are overlapping on the textures, so when it's in motion, you know, it should work seamlessly going from one to the next, such that you don't notice the seam. But I think because they're a little bit overlapped, you notice it, and kind of with this other more wispy texture, I think it was quite a bit more forgiving versus this one here. I mean, those seams I think have to be butted up perfectly, or else you're gonna just notice them and they'll stick out. The other thing that I tried to cover over here is right where it enters the main water table, if you will. And I don't know that that works the best. You know, if I go to the ground, I'll just come down here. Oh my goodness. You know what's interesting? Whenever I fly in here, I don't know if it's this way for you, but I almost feel it as if I was just up in the air and then started falling. I almost feel something in my stomach as if I'm really falling. Anyway, right here, oh, there's a fence in back of us. Here's where it kind of, you know, comes down the mountain, if you will, and then flows into the water table. So I tried to put some particle animation here, which is just a bunch of steam or water vapor, whatever. I just stole it from somewhere else on the map, trying to think that, you know, maybe this would hide kind of the as one texture fades into the other, you know, the mountain stream, if you will, coming down and flowing in. Oh boy, when you get up close here, that almost looks like a glacier or something with ice hunks flowing down. Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe getting too close to it probably isn't ideal. I wonder how it appears, like if we were to look at it out here. So we don't even notice it when we're out here. All we see is just steam. I thought about putting a rock in there, something to kind of hide the transition. And maybe the reality of it is there's just no hiding it, and this is just one of those things where you do the best you can. But I'd be curious, anybody else looking at this, if you have a preference. The reason I use this texture is I found it's a seamless one, and I'm using it over in another series that I'm doing, actually on a Farm Sim 11 map, and I kind of like the effect, so I figured I would try it in here kind of on the main stream. I colored it a little bit differently, and like I say, I'm not sure I'm real wild about it, and part of it I think has to do with how all these textures, you know, were put together. You can just see the seams, and it messes with your eyes. I don't think ideas oppose, like just right down there, that same. And it's because they overlap. You can even see the overlapping right on the side. Actually, let me get down there. Can I get there? I don't know if everybody can see that. You see the, yeah, the one coming down the hill, the upper one is wider than the lower one based on how it's placed. And so you see it. And before you just never noticed it. And now when the texture covers the whole, oh, I don't even know what you call this. What do you call that plate sitting in there? Now that it covers the whole plate, I guess we'll say, you notice it the whole way across. Before, I would never have guessed that the top one wasn't in alignment, or that it was a little bit wider than this one here, wasn't on the same level, however you want to say it. So, I guess if the things were butted up at least, you wouldn't notice a transition from one to the other. But because they're not, you do see that line. So, I don't know. Like I say, if you have any thoughts on it, I'd love to hear about it. And once again, this is kind of the old style, if you will. But just kind of at a glance, I don't mind it. I mean, it's, you know, if let me go up a little bit further here. Another change I made, by the way, is I made it so you could see it further in distance. It had a really short clip distance, I think of 50 meters. So 50-meter distance away, which was often well within sight, you know, they no longer put them, no longer rendered it on the screen. So I updated that to 150 meters. So now, let me just go up a little bit further. You can kind of see the stream kind of at a much further distance. If I get over here, it should cut off. Yeah, I think you can see up there. You see where the stream bed is supposed to go, but you notice that it cuts off until we get up there's the next one. Plate by plate, you can see it kind of go up the stream. So I figured 150 meters would be a little better. We could see a little bit further, but not 100% sure. I like how it's looking, but what do you all think? And maybe what I need to do is just forget about it, because farmers don't make money looking at the streams. They make money. How do they make money? We make money by working. So I'm going to head back up here to kind of where we left off. We were windrowing. We're going to get her going again and head on around. Oh, I think I heard the wind blow. I'd be curious what any of you think, too, of the map edge work done here by Wild Wild Wes. You can see it, but it still has the feeling of you're really up on a high mountain and that there's a huge drop-off kind of behind me. And that it's normal for it to be that way. I think at another angle you see kind of the water table maybe far below. I better be careful here and see how I'm doing this. Maybe I'll turn that off so I don't make a mess. Map edge work, I would say, has gotta be some of the toughest things to do. I mean, I've only ever edited a map and, you know, swapped out some textures or added them. You know, and I do remember when this map was in testing, I seem to recall I was the one that suggested to him that it would be good if he had a map border. And part of it was, you know, for the sake of immersion, it just didn't make sense that when you get up here, you know, before he had all this facade out here, it was literally nothing. You would just look out there and it'd be black. And and it just either that or you would see water, depending on how big the water table was and how far below it is. A lot of these maps in this era, the water texture, the water table, took up the whole size of the map and beyond. And so beyond the map edges, unless you covered it up with something, you would just see water. And it's just extremely hard to make everything look normal, because, you know, we see the look that this has, and then when you look over here, it's just a picture, it's a facade, I don't even know what you call it, it's paper thin, it's just a picture, and everybody's eyes tells them that it doesn't look right. And so it's just very hard to blend it all in and make it look normal. So, but it's, in my opinion, it's better than nothing, having, you know, that facade over there. Better than not having anything. And I know, you know, every trick in the book is used by mappers many times to trick our eyes into thinking the map just continues. Oh, there we got a glimpse of the water table. Continues forever and ever, you know. And the one trick Wes has used in this map is he'll stack objects off the edge of the map. You can do that in the editor, and it kind of looks like, you know, it continues on. Other times I'll see mappers, you know, for example, the electric lines and the power poles and whatnot. I think Wes may have a couple of those in here. Those two can extend beyond the edge of the map. You know, really any object can be placed off the edge of the map, and as long as it's static and not dynamic, it'll just hang there in space. And sometimes, like I say, that helps fool a person's eyes and helps it with the immersion. But I know from Wes's perspective, when he was working on it, one comment he had was he liked that the player, whatever they could see, they could drive to. And I understand that. I mean, there's that's a good point. But I don't know that the player expects to be able to drive to everything that he can see. So there's always trade-offs, one way or the other. It's just the way it is. Alright, we about have this licked up here. And unfortunately, I don't think this is going to make very many bales. But it'll make a couple. And like I said earlier, we'll come pick them up later. There we go. I'm going to fold him up. Actually, I might be able to sneak him. Maybe I can just park him in between the windrows over here. Yeah, we'll just farm around him. Actually, the hill rises right here before it goes down over. We'll go to our tractor precariously parked on the edge of the hill. Almost looks like he slid a little bit because the baler is kind of at an angle. Yeah, this is just treacherously steep in here. And I know... Whoa. Okay. Well, that's very interesting. And it just reminds me... Oh boy, I'm going to have to terminate this, and I was not expecting that at all. I'm going to lose my tractor in here. Well, that was an unintended result, so I'm not even going to save it because I don't want to save the fire in there. Here's the thing. I know I showed this before, kind of the effect of fire, and what I forgot is I still have that mod in the folder, and secondly, it is still set up, because remember I was testing it, so the slightest thing If it's a baler or a combine, I think those two implements, or those two bits of machinery, if you will, are going to cause, what you just saw. So, and the way I had it set up was immediate. Ideally what I need to do is update and fix the parameters in there so that it happens kind of random, maybe over a period of time, versus the moment I turn on the baler. So, yeah, it's kind of funny to me now, but I'm going to have to redo some of that. So give me just a moment. I'm going to hop out of game, and we will temporarily remove the app mod. And like I say, I'm going to need to fix the parameters. But it is good to see that the baler did in fact trigger a fire, so I know that that works. And I think I've already proven it with a combine. I don't know that I've done it before with a baler. So I'm actually kind of pleased. I wasn't counting on doing this when I fired up the game, that I would get an opportunity to test the fire. But I'm not prepared to fight it, and there's no way I want to have the entire forest burned down while I stumble around trying to figure out how to put it out. It's in a horrible place to try to put out. I actually just hop back in here. I mean, how would you get equipment up here? Let me see if I can get the tractor out at least. Because if I don't, the tractor eventually is gonna... Oh dear. Oh dear, I think it took the baler. And yeah, plus it is spreading way more rapidly than I'd want to. You know what? It got the tractor anyhow. Oh boy. Yeah, it's wow. This mod, I still say it is so eerie, and especially the surprise factor. It's gonna burn everything. Oh, hear that wind. Alright, I'm gonna hop out of game. Be back in a bit. Alright folks, we are back, and I'm going to have to do, again, what we just did. But we no longer have the fire mod in here, so I think when I next activate the baler, we aren't going to start burning down half of Gelvin Valley. So I'll stop talking here, and I think I will just speed this up so you don't have to watch it slow speed again. Alright, that takes care of doing it again. I just love doing jobs a second time that I already did. But I'm glad we don't have a forest fire. Leastways, I'm hoping we don't have one. Let's give this another try. Head on down over the hill. Wake up our tractor. And we'll head on up and see if this time we can do some baling. Last time it was the mere firing of turning on our baler that caused us, yeah. Now we're not going to start a forest fire. We shouldn't, because I removed the mod. So we'll just get it going on this and land ourselves some hay. There There's the magic one. You know, we happen to have a, is it O? What is that thing that, yes, it is O. You know, in the coating of the Giants, when a baler is partially full, and I don't know if anybody noticed, but we came up here with a partial straw bale in the baler. And in real life, of course, you know, what you'd end up, if you had previously baled straw and there was a little bit left and you started putting hay into it, well, you'd kind of have a half and half bale. Half straw, half hay. Well, there is no allowance for such an animal in Farming Sim. So what it does is whatever you're taking in at the moment is what you're going to end up with for a bale. So we could have had, you know, you'll notice each bale has 4,000 liters to fill it. And we could have had 3,999 liters of straw. And by feeding just a tiny little bit of hay into it, it would have turned the entire amount into a hay bale. Just kind of the way the coating works. Because they don't have, all they have is straight up hay bales or grass bales or straw bales. They don't have any mixture, so that's kind of how we end up there. I gotta say, I'm kind of enjoying doing a little bit of hay. It takes me back and gives me some memories of doing it when I was younger, only in those days, and I did, well, my father's always had some hay around. It seems every year we make some. We have a few acres around our house. I live right next door to him, and he has several cattle that he feeds through the winter. And so there's always some hay to be made on the property. He now has his own equipment to do it. Ooh, I want to keep it out of the way of that windrow. And so, really, I've been around a lot of it my whole life, but never round bales, really. I know there's some guys in our area that maybe have round balers, but I don't think that they're as common as the square bales. I occasionally will see the wrapped straw bale, or excuse me, the wrapped silage style bales that are round. And I remember when I worked on Lone Oak growing up, there was a neighbor that made some grass seed straw bales. There was a particular field that we had some in that he knew the cattle would like. I think they were bent grass. That he made them with a round baler, but like I say, by and large, I think I've seen typically square balers, and nowadays they're the large square balers. You know, when I was a kid, you'd occasionally see some of the large balers. We called them bread loaf balers. Some of them were just massive, and I don't even know that they tied them or anything. They just accumulated a ton of straw, and then they would take them off the edge of the field and kind of dump them somewheres. But now, I mean, they have just the large bales, and you can no longer throw them around by hand. You know, when I was a kid, it was almost all small bales, and you know, if you were a hay contractor, you know, you'd still make small bales so they could be handled, but you would handle them with specialized equipment. And we did too on the farm at Lone Oak. Here at home, though, with my father, we've continued to do it the old-fashioned way, which is mainly by hand. You know, we do, when we put it up in the barn, we have some equipment that gets it from the ground or the trailer up to the barn. Where there's people, but once they get up in the barn, I mean, it's 100% hand stacking, just like the old-fashioned way. And it is hot, dusty, dry work. And you know, I'll tell you another thing we never used when I was a kid is a mask. man, I can't conceive of doing it anymore without a mask. I'm okay out in the field, where there's maybe a breeze or something to blow the hay and dust away, but once you get up in the confines of a hay mow and a barn, there's no place for the hay to go. And I think as a kid, when you're in that environment, most kids think they're going to live forever and never realize what sucking all that into their lungs may do to their health further down the road. And plus, I think a guy can get fooled. You think just because you don't see it, that therefore it doesn't exist. And of course, when you get older, you start to learn differently. That it does exist, and all these little tiny bits of hay flying through the air can and do stick in your lungs and cause issues. So anytime I have to go up in there, and frankly up in the haymow, I try to avoid that part because I'm allergic to grass as it is, and so I just try to stay out of it. I'll do the stuff on the ground. I'll take bales off the trailer. I'll put them on the elevator to send them up, but I'll let other people do the stacking up in the haymow. But back when I was on Lone Oak, we did it all. We just did it all. And seeing as how I just heard the timer go off, I'm already at the end of another episode, although part of that is going to be fast forwarded and snipped out on account of this foolishness we encountered with the fire. That really caught me off guard. And I suppose it would to, if it happened in real life. I mean, who plans for a fire? Well, I know we planned. We always did that in case there was a fire. We had, especially in the harvest field, we had equipment parked around that in case one of the combines ever started a fire, that, we could put it out. But nobody wakes up in the morning and says, yep, today is going to be a fire, and, here's what we're going to do with it. It's just one of those things that is unfortunate if and when it happens. And, alright, start the engine first. We're going to head back to the farm. Try to get there. Actually, maybe before I go, that's probably a decent picture, right? Alright, we got ourselves a picture. Let's head home. Turn on my indicators. Come on, dude, give it a follow. Go down this treacherously steep path. If there are places like this over in the UK that truly exist, how do those guys farm it and keep their sanity? It's just, I'm still just enamored with the topography in here. It's, I've always enjoyed hills and agriculture. I know I've made no secret of that. But it's just fascinating. If it truly exists in real life. And, I mean, the only place I've heard of that has hills like that to farm in like a high meadow or whatever, be a place like, Switzerland maybe. I've heard they have a lot of that there. But I didn't know that they had that in the UK. So, anyway, run through our car there. I'm kind of curious if the follow me guy will run right through him. It looks like he is. But anyway, I was talking about nobody planning for a fire. Maybe we plan to fight a fire. But there's a gentleman Oh my goodness. I thought I'd remove collisions on a good lot of those. Now, is he going to tangle with that thing? He did not. Good lad. I thought I'd remove collisions on a lot of those signs, but I guess I hadn't, so... I know in the giant standard map, a lot of those signs will kind of break away if you happen to hit them, which is exactly what they would do in real life. Don't ask me how I know. Sometimes things just happen. And you know what? This time I'm going to go around kind of the long way, because last time when we headed through the shortcut back to the main farm, we kind of got tangled up on that tree. So I'm going to head over here. Once again, what do you all think of this texture for the water? It's not all bad. It's maybe a little slow moving up here. But yeah, I'm still not sure if I like it or not. Around the corner and head on back. I see here it's just past noon. I'm trying to see if we should go do some more bales. Kind of up on another hill, way across the valley. But I think for now, I think we're pretty well through this episode. Oh, it really widens out kind of right in that spot. So thank you so much for coming along as we baled a few bales of hay, which we're going to leave up there until we're done with the harvest. And hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye for now.